I did a review back in January 2019 of the Generation 1 of the LCT Recoil kit, and I can pretty much categorically state now that I do not recommend it. Certainly based on the one I had, I do not recommend it to anyone really.
7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, welcome back to AATV. I'm Tom Anvil Hibberd, and today you'll find me in the garden at AATV HQ. I was just doing a thumbnail for one of my live streams, and in it I was wearing my Op4 dish dash, and that got me thinking, what about my Op4 AK? Unfortunately, this was the host for the LCT EBB Recoil kit, and as you can see, it's been in pieces for quite some time now, as it wasn't really working out very well. I'll show you a bit more of that when we go into the workshop. So here's the recoil gearbox. As you can see, it's in bits. Here's the original gearbox from this AK. So what we're going to do today is open this up, clean it up, and install it back into the AKM. So as you can see, the LCT Recoil kit is in a number of little bags at the moment. That's because there was loads and loads of premature wear on the gearbox. It's probably done 6,000 BBs at the most, probably nearer 3,000, and there's wear on the inside of the gearbox, on the rails, the piston rails themselves, they're worn down. When I opened it up twice, each time it was full of metal shavings, never a good sign. There's also scoring on the outside of the gearbox, where the mock bolt carrier has been working back and forward. It rubs on this little bit here, this flag which hangs down, that rubs on the exterior of the gearbox casing. And I was getting really worried about a catastrophic failure. The other thing that happens is even on this pretty much brand new AKM, it starts working it loose. So I've had to lock tight every single little bolt down to make sure it doesn't move. Particularly problematic is the hop up. As soon as you start firing, the hop up basically just starts unwinding, which is a complete nightmare when you're playing a game. And also the fire selector bounces around. So when you're firing it, you almost have to have one finger on the fire selector to stop it moving. Not great. I did a review back in January 2019 of the Generation 1 of the LCT Recoil kit, and I can pretty much categorically state now that I do not recommend it. Certainly based on the one I had, I do not recommend it to anyone really. It's a lot of fun, it's just not worth the hassle of having to open up the gearbox, lock tight everything every time you play with it. So I'm going to put the old gearbox back in again. So this is what you get inside your EBB gearbox. Let's do a quick tour just so we know what we're looking at. High torque motor. This was pretty much new to the EBB kit. It's actually pretty good. To a little talky boy. Not that I'm a motor expert. This is the sector gear. As you can see, they've machined off half the teeth. Bevel gear is quite nice. I ended up using that for another project. So anti-reversal latch. You can see a bit of wear already. This is the steel piston from the Recoil kit with the standard LCT alloy aluminium piston head. So this hook on the piston interfaces with a tang on the back of the mock bolt, and as the piston draws back, it pulls the bolt back and forward. As you can imagine from pulling this back and forward, there's a lot of wear on this little hook. But it's not a very subtle recoil kit. It is pretty fun, but yeah, as you can imagine, pulling this back and forward, quite tough. Hence why they provided this beastie motor. This is a fairly standard LCT cylinder, although unusually for an LCT it's got some form of plastic cylinder head. It does have this slot cut out in the cylinder in this position to take the hook. Compression, pretty good. Steel bearing spring guide. This is the gearbox that came in the version 1 Recoil kit. It's a fairly standard version 3 LCT AK gearbox shell, but with the slot milled out on the top to take the hook on the piston. Also has these reinforced steel pieces here, shell, and that takes the recoil spring. Version 2 of the Recoil kits, they've put a new gearbox shell in. Actually, I'd quite like to get hold of it, which is reinforced and has a quick change spring on the back. Okay, so gearbox damage. You can see the bright bits. There's actually a line scored into the gearbox. This damage was caused by this flag or tab on the bottom of the fake bolt kit running back and forward. This fake bolt kit was originally built as just a fake bolt kit. It was never meant to be any sort of recoil kit. It's very close to, obviously, the bolt carrier and piston on a real AK. And it was largely intended just for realism. So the steel piston, as it worked its way back and forward, started grinding away on the interior of the gearbox shell. It's quite hard to show you, but this is actually really shiny now, and there's been quite a lot of material taken off. You can see where it's slightly shiny. A lot of material has been taken off this piston rail, which all fell down into the rest of the gearbox. And there was some wear here as well, it ground down. Okay, other damage. You see this shape lozenge here? That's damage from smacking against the front trunnion on the AKM itself, as there's a little knock here as well. So it was beating itself to death against these surfaces here on the front of the AK. I'm quite glad that this is made of softer stuff than the actual gun, so the gun's not suffered any problems. There have been some reports on the internet of issues around here and on the front trunnion itself from the impacts. And you can see it runs on the rails. It's inside the receiver here. I may, because this is rear wired, I may end up using this anyway, but I'll end up cutting the tab off. I'll probably cut that tab off and just run it as just a fun thing to have in, because it's more fun to use this than it is the standard kind of really weak spring that you get in an AK. Okay, enough of that. Let's get on with it. This is the stock motor that came out of the AKM, and I'm going to use the high torque that came from the recoil kit. One of the things I'm going to do at a later date is rewire this into Deans. So we've got mini Tamiya, a fuse, another mini Tamiya, so there's quite a lot of not brilliant connections. So I'll splice in another section of wire and put a Deans connector in. Here's a classic, just where I put the top cover back on. You can see that this rivet has come out under the vibration, or fake rivet, so a bit of a shame, but there you go. Until you've got a good motor when it decides to attract all the tools on your workbench. Things left to do. Accuracy and range tests. But I have to wait till we get to the range, see how this is doing accuracy and range wise, and if I need to do any hot mods. I also want to splice in an extra set of cable and put in a Deans connector just so it matches up the rest of my batteries. For the use this gun is going to get as kind of an OP4 or film sim kind of gun when I'm playing the so-called bad guys, I'm not really worried about the performance of this. I just want it to be reliable and to work and to look good, because most of the day I'm just going to be carrying it around, and if I'm shooting at people, they're going to be the players who have paid money to be there, so actually having a really highly competitive gun probably isn't great. Thanks for watching. I'm Tom Anvil Hibberd for AATV. Please like, subscribe. If you want to find out when we release new videos, ding the bell, and we'll see you next time.